Hello, Mr. Legier. I am Whitley Lang, and in this video, I will be summarizing the presidential debate between presidential candidate Joe Biden and presidential candidate Donald J. Trump. As we know, each party has their views, which are usually opposite on many controversial issues and topics. They each align to their party lines through a large majority of the debate. I will now give a couple examples concerning the topic of immigration. Joe Biden aligned with the Democratic Party on immigration by claiming that the illegal immigrants should be allowed to come across the border and be able to get jobs like other American citizens. He also said in the video that Trump separates families that immigrate to America and after deportation. After doing some research on my own, this is how the Democratic Party feels about the topic of immigration. Trump, on the other hand, talks about how he is going to get the illegal immigrants out of America and how he will make the safest border when he claims in the video that Biden had the border open to anyone and everyone, which is what the Republican Party tends to support considering immigration. They both use safety and fear in their language. However, the Democrats focus on the fear of families being split up after deportation. Trump focuses on the fear of having dangerous people unaccounted for in our country. Another way they divide clearly along the two party lines, and they've used aligned language, is on the topic of abortion. Here are some examples of abortion. In the video, the moderators asked Trump about overturning Roe v. Wade in his first presidential term. And in the video, he said that for over 51 years, all Americans have wanted Roe v. Wade overturned and has wanted the power to be back in the hands of the states, which is definitely how Republicans feel about abortion and being pro-life. Biden, however, on the other hand, was talking about being pro-choice, which is the more liberal side of abortion. He was also talking in the video about bringing back Roe v. Wade, and in the video he said that abortion should be between the doctor and the mother, or the mother and the child, and that they should have the decision of what happens in a pregnancy. He states in the video that by giving the states the decision of laws for abortion is like giving them the choice to vote on civil rights and slavery. Partisan identity affected their treatment of the opposition at national challenges by always saying what the other candidates' opinions or the way they handled a situation was the wrong way to do so. Trump will never give Biden and the Democrats credit for anything they have instated that is helpful or positive, and Biden and his administration will never admit that some of Trump's ideas could be good and lead to a positive change in America. An example of this is when Trump believed he was doing good by cutting taxes by $2 billion. Biden, however, argued back that this has only helped the wealthy because now they only pay 8.2% in taxes. Biden states in the video that if they would pay 25% in taxes, they would raise $500 billion more dollars in a 10-year period. A counterexample to this is when Trump claims he had the economy the best it has ever been and saved the United States of America from going into another Great Depression during COVID's pandemic. But then in the video, he blames Biden for ruining it by letting COVID get out of hand again when Biden took office. These examples show how both parties feel about each other. And then another example of partisan identity with these two candidates centers around the Russia and Ukraine war. Trump takes the stance that under the Biden administration, America was seen as weak and not respected. Trump says that when he was president, it was the most respected government ever, and that countries copied his government because of how well it was run. Biden argues back that this war would have started no matter what anyone did, and puts the blame solely on the Russian leader for wanting the Soviet Union back and not stopping the war until he accomplishes that, no matter what the rest of the world says, thinks, or does about it. The moderators were being biased. Many of their questions and topics were democratically based or focusing on things that Trump has done or had done wrong in his first presidency. The moderators would tend to also let Biden reply to Trump's statements even if it was not his turn to speak or if Biden was not supposed to have time to talk on his stand. However, when Trump would try to do this and talk about his opinion on Biden's statements that he said, they would cut him off and just bring up the next topic, mainly making Trump spend his time for the next topic on a topic that he was already talking about, because they did not give him the same time as Joe Biden to state his opinions and beliefs on the situation. An example of the moderators being biased is when they asked President Trump about the White House raid on January 6, 2021. They were also telling him how it goes against everything that he was sworn into when becoming President of the United States. Trump had to defend himself not only against the moderators and Democrats, but also against Joe Biden, who was also saying stuff to him about it. In this situation, they had never asked Biden a question like this. They also brought up Trump's felony charges and let Biden bring up more things about his felonies instead of just ending the situation and going on to the next political topic. This could be viewed to some as trying to make Trump seem like a horrible person and has done so much more wrong than Joe Biden, when almost all of his charges have been dropped. Also, the raid he claimed was not his fault, and instead the mayor of DC declined him when he tried to give her 10,000 soldiers, and she took the sole blame for the raid. In my opinion, that is why the moderators were being biased in the debate instead of giving each candidate a fair chance to talk and state their opinions. The debate was mainly polarizing. Going into this debate and others, the stance of the candidates and the parties was widely known already. The candidates argued and fought so much that the divide became greater instead of making it a whole. The goal of this debate was, instead of uniting the country and the parties, their goal was to strengthen the followers that they already had and to encourage the faith in them. Like I had previously mentioned, the goal of this was not mainly to change all Americans' stances on politics. However, Trump did sometimes address all Americans. In his statements, he would sometimes say, "My fellow Americans," or statements like, "The American people would want," or "This is what the Americans believe," addressing all in America, not just Republicans or not just Democrats. However, on the other hand, Biden never once made a statement like this. He never made a statement blatantly addressing all Americans. This debate shows that both parties have a very strong following and strong opinions about the situations going on in America. These two men are the heads of their parties and attack each other's character and ideas so much that in the end, it is hard to know who to trust and who has America's best interest at heart. Overall, this debate shows how divided we are as a country and how big of an impact voting can be. Also, it shows how difficult it can be in selecting the correct leader to make our country great and well respected. In conclusion, to know which side to believe or align with on a topic, a person needs to do a lot of research on their own about individual topics. You cannot believe everything that the presidential candidates say, no matter which side you believe in. Many times the candidates will say things to make themselves look better and try to throw a diss at the other candidate to try and make their side of the story look more positive and the correct one. However, the truth usually lies somewhere in the middle of every single situation. And that is my summary on the presidential debate video between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Thank you.